Good Wednesday morning of the 10th week of Ordinary Time. This is a controversial gospel by Matthew, okay? Remember, Matthew was a Jewish lawyer, as it were. He was steeped into Jewish law, and he had to be struggling with this, with the New Testament, struggling who and what was Christ and what did it, the implications of Christ to the old law, okay? Well, I'm not doing a good job here, and I'm sorry. You have to go all the way to St. John's Gospel to see the radical transformation, okay? But in the early going, Matthew and Mark, they're early. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the Synoptic Gospels are mighty early. Mark was the first, but Matthew is right behind him, okay? And Luke, different audiences, but Matthew is dealing with Jewish Christians, and he has to figure out how the law applies to them. Okay? Does it even? You'll see in John it doesn't at all. Okay? But Matthew's not there yet. The revelation of Christ, not only personally, but also ecclesia, as the church evolves, she learns as she goes. And you see it in the evolution of the gospel. You read John, I always say, start with John, then read the rest. Go back to Mark is the earlier. Read him first. Read him after you've read John first, because John's the fullness. He had 50 more years to think about it. And he's a better writer, too. Whatever, Well, let me read it to you. Jesus said to his disciples, do not think that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. I've come not to abolish, but to fulfill. That's a crucial line. See? I'll tell you the honest truth, John would take it even more radically. I've come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Amen, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or the smallest part of a letter will pass from the law until all things have taken place. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and teaches these commandments will be called greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Okay, but all of this rides on one line. Watch what he says. I can read it to you again. Amen, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or the smallest part of a letter will pass from the law until all things have taken place. What things? The new creation. And the new creation is Good Friday, Easter Sunday. See, when Christ dies and rises, he is the new Adam and the new world. And there is a new heaven and a new earth. Both the heaven and the earth witness to Christ. You see? Now, a Christian, Matthew had to be struggling like Christmas trees about all this. You get to John doesn't even blink an eye on this, you see. You start with the death and resurrection of Christ, and you work backwards. You see, you give it its interpretation. So when all things take place, what thing? Until all things take place, what thing? Christ's death and resurrection. And that's to create the death. Death is the end of the old and the beginning of the new. And the new and the resurrected Christ is the church. See? It's the new heaven and the new earth. That's the apocalypse, you see. The book of Revelation. A new heaven and a new earth. The Christian genius is to see this. See? We are not just a fulfillment of the Old Testament, a radical transformation of it. So that when we even look at the Old Testament, we look at the book of, of Exodus, etc., we see it in the light of Christ, not the other way around. See? We start with Christ and then read the entire creation account, starting with Genesis, in the light of Christ. The truth of the matter is, the Jewish writers, the great writers of Judaism, all right, and the Old Testament begins, in a sense, cognitively or intellectually, it begins, that's not the right word. You have to understand the whole Bible is coming from and turning back to Exodus. So Genesis is written in the light of Exodus. And all the prophets always turn back to Exodus, the primordial moment when God recreates the Jewish people as he takes them through the desert. He frees them from the enslavement of sin called Egypt and gives them the promised land, paradise. And they do it by crossing faithfully the desert under Moses. See? That's the model. The new Moses is Christ, and the desert he crosses is the desert of life and death. And all things are made new in the new promised land. The promised land is the life of the church. Ultimately, heaven. I would say the life of the church, where Christ is present in all our members, and the sacraments make present Christ in every phase of our lives, from our birth to our death, realized in fulfillment and revelation in paradise. What we have in paradise is the complete revelation of who and what we are and who and what we have been. It's neat, isn't it? It's not like we're going to be ghosts in paradise. We're going to be in a sense, the resurrected life is with each other. My friend asked me, I told you this many times. When you look forward to paradise, what do you say? What do you look forward to? Is to be with my family and those I have loved and been loved by, my friend Junie. I want to walk with her again, but now forever. I want her to be like she was here with the kids here at the beach, Bull Shoals, you say. But now I want her to be with me, and I want to be with her and Bill and the family now. And my family and all whom I have loved and been loved by now, not in this beautiful land here, in this lake, Bull Shoals Lake, but now in a paradise of sheer beauty and life. See? The new heaven and the new earth. But indistinguishable, as it were, from this life. It will be this life now radically revivified and radically transformed. But it is still life. I will still be Theodore Raymond Tarquinio Peter Vitale. That's who I will be. And my mother and father will be Tarquinio John Vitale. Well, it's Tarquinio Raymond. John was his nickname, Vitale. My mother's Laura. My mother was a Vitale before she met my father. So Laura Vitale. It must have been fun when they were trying to get married. And the guy said, wait a minute, you got the same name. My father just got mad. Well, the Vitales and Pontomazzari are separate families, but they have the same last name, Vitale and Vitales. In Pontomazzari, my father's a little village. You have three dominant families, dominantly named, and two of the three are Vitales. Vitales marry Vitales. No connection. The church's records will prove that 1,000 times over. We keep good records. You ain't connected. You ain't cousins. See? Anyway, it's just a story. But I don't know. I'm just reflecting out loud, huh? The new heaven and the new earth. And I do look forward, as I told my colleague Eleanor Stump. I said, Al, I look forward to being with my family again, those I have loved and been loved by. I want to walk again with Junie. I want to walk with the family. My friends, Frankie Coppola. I want to be with Frank again. I want to be with my passionate colleagues, my classmates, who I spent such formative years with and still love. I love them as much as I love my own brother. John O'Brien. John had such a luxurious laugh. You had to know Big John. His laugh was as big as he was. And Tom Joyce, Malcolm. Val was our liturgist. He was a great liturgist. Yeah. And I think of always Flavian, who brought me into the order. Flav was my hero. Still is. Died a young man, only in his 60s. Brain cancer. Yeah. I want to be with him again. I want to be with my fellow Passionists. Without them, I wouldn't be sitting here now. They saw something in me I didn't see. They saw I was intelligent. Not just pious, but intelligent, and they fostered it. I'm a university professor. I would have never been that without the order, because they saw me, they loved me, and they brought me along. How can I not want to be with them forever? You see, heaven and a new earth. The new heaven and the new earth are all we have loved and been loved by, now together again in company of Christ. Isn't that neat? Ci vediamo in paradiso. We will see each other again in paradise and love each other forever.